He's 21 years of age. Do you notice that he's standing there smiling along with our deputies? Well, let me tell you about Dennis. He's from Nicaragua, and in 2021, he was stopped by Border Patrol as he was coming into this country. This was the Biden administration, so they gave him a court date and they released him. That's right, catch and release. And isn't it interesting that he came into this country in the area of Chula Vista, California? So in 2021, he's in this country illegally. He's caught and released as opposed to being taken into custody, and proceedings began at that time. Let's fast forward to July of 2024. He's arrested in Galveston, Texas for DUI. Apparently, he doesn't show up for court. Now, I don't know whether or not Galveston reported him to ICE when they arrested him for being in the country illegally or not. I can tell you in 2024, we always reported people to ICE that we came into contact with. In fact, we did a daily report of everybody we arrested so that they could interconnect it with their database. So I'm going to presuppose that happened in Galveston, Texas as well. But not only did they not hold him when he was arrested by the local authorities, he was released apparently on bond or promised to show up at court. Did he show up at court? No, he didn't show up at court. So Texas issued a warrant for his arrest. However, it is a no extradition warrant, which simply means if they get outside of the jurisdiction, whether that's the state or the county, then if you come in contact with this person, they will not take them into custody on those particular charges. So in 2024, he's arrested for DUI. He fails to show up. There's an outstanding warrant, and he disappears again. Now I want to bring you to Polk County, Florida. This morning, HSI detectives, investigators, special agents have a lead that he is at 1009 Buccaneer Drive in Lakeland. Now, I must tell you that Buccaneer Drive is a pretty rough area. So they send two agents by themselves to Buccaneer Drive because they have information that he's there, and now there's a warrant for deportation. So the agents set up, and sure enough, they see him get in a vehicle with two other people and leave. They follow him out to Reynolds Road, which is on the east side of Lakeland, and they perform a traffic stop. The truck pulls over. They determine Dennis is in the passenger side of the truck. The female ICE agent or HSI agent is on that side of the truck. So the male ICE agent walks around from the driver's side to the passenger side, where they immediately inform him that they're going to take him into custody. And he tries to run. When he tries to run, then the male agent grabs him and goes to the ground with him, and a scuffle ensues. I'm told that the fight lasted about 5 minutes. Now, ladies, and during the fight, finally, the female ICE agent is able to spray with pepper spray, and Dennis turns loose top of and is holding down. Then Dennis Miranda jumps up and he runs into the woods. The HSI agents chase him into the woods until they lose sight of him and ultimately summon the sheriff's office. We sent a legion of people. We sent a helicopter. We send drones. We send canine. We send supervisors. We send deputies. So we're creating a walled off area in efforts to take this guy into jail, who's now not only wanted on his deportation order, but now he's committed a battery on a federal agent. That is a third-degree felony, except he's illegal, which makes it a second-degree felony. It's serious. And now we know that our male agent has an injured shoulder. I don't know the extent of whether it's just dislocated, but he's injured and he has to be transported to the hospital. In the meantime, Dennis Miranda goes up onto a loading dock and hides among some 55-gallon drums on the loading dock. An employee sees him hiding and asks him what he's doing there. And he asks for a glass of water. So the employee goes back in, locks the door, dials 911 and says, "Hey, I've seen the deputies out here. There's this really strange person on our loading dock, and we send resources there." He's fled again. We continue the pursuit. While we're setting up with our canines to deploy, he runs out toward the edge of the perimeter, and Lieutenant Katsoulis takes him into custody without any further problems. Now, we have him under arrest. He's smiling. I bet we've wiped the smile off of his face. And the reason I think we've wiped the smile off of his face, he's charged with battery on a law enforcement officer. That's now an F2 instead of an F3 because he is illegally in the country and the state of Florida. He's charged with resisting with violence, which is now an F2 instead of a F3. He's charged with resisting without violence, which is now an F3 instead of a first-degree misdemeanor. He's charged with false imprisonment, and he's charged with burglary of an occupied structure. Very serious charges. The burglary of the occupied structure is now an F1, a felony of the first degree, as opposed to a felony of the second degree. Now, he's not even yet facing his federal charges for all of his actions that day. So here's what he looks like after he's under arrest. We read Dennis Miranda, his Miranda warnings, and he totally confessed to us. He told us he was here illegally, and he told us all about the fight and the resisting and trying to get away because he didn't want to be deported. The other two people in the vehicle were also here illegally as well. They were taken into federal custody and transported to either Tampa ICE or over to Pinellas County Jail, which is a federal lockup. But they sent two folks after three people who were here illegally, and obviously this guy wasn't going to go. The other two cooperated. They stayed in the vehicle. They did not resist. They did not run. They did not fight. This guy has a lot of charges that he's facing now. Once again, had this guy been dealt with correctly, he had been touched at least, I underscore, at least 2 other times when he came into this country illegally, and nothing was done. And now he's injured federal agents trying to do their job and take him into custody. Are there any questions?
How does that make you feel, that he had other instances to be taken into custody before he came here?
Well, it's a clear indication that the system, as I've said back for years, is broken. The federal immigration system is broken. Had they appropriately dealt with him instead of catch and release in 2021, none of this would have happened. None of it. But as we all know, people were allowed to violate the law and flow across this border illegally. And you see the end results. We have an injured federal agent. We had a great deal of resources that the local taxpayers had to pay for in order to take him into custody with a smile on his face. And now the state of Florida and the taxpayers of Polk County are going to have to pay to hire him a defense attorney, to try him. We're going to send him to state prison for a very long time, which is our hopes upon his conviction, not counting what the federal government may want to do with him before he's deported. So it's cost the taxpayers untold hundreds of thousands of dollars before all of this is over with, and it never should have happened in the first place.
Let me ask, can you lay out a timeline of from the time they tried to arrest him on the warrant to when they contacted Polk County, and then from when Polk County was contacted to when he was taken into custody? How much time elapsed?
Yeah, I don't have the timeline, but it was relatively quickly. Whenever they called us and called for assistance, then we immediately responded, and we responded with resources. And the first thing you do is set the perimeter, because you have to set a large perimeter and then you start marching the perimeter in. What helps speed it along is when the employee of the business noticed this guy was, ostensibly in their business hiding, and notified us, which sped the process up. So I don't know the exact times, but we can get that to you. He was taken into custody rather quickly.
Can you remember another instance in Polk County where an ICE or HSI agent has been allegedly assaulted by a subject?
To my knowledge, this is the first time we've had an ICE agent injured in the line of duty, and he was significantly injured. He had to go to the hospital, and he's going to make a full recovery. But the reality of it is it shouldn't have happened. And the people need to know this in the community. There is this illusion that all of these folks that are here are just wanting to work and do good. Well, a percentage of them are. But a lot of them are here and they don't want to go back, and they'll do whatever they need to do, including resist arrest and fight with the federal agents. It's HSI. I think it was one of them may have been an ERO ICE agent, but they came from two different investigative teams from HSI. But they'll fight in order to keep from going back. Well, they're going to go back. It's whether they want to go back tired or bruised up or both. But fortunately, when he encountered us, he didn't resist. He didn't give us any trouble. He was totally cooperative. We read Miranda confess.
I mean, yeah, 5 minutes like a tussle.
5 minutes is a very long tussle. And I know that they did not summon us until after the tussle, after he ran, and they pursued him, and he was lost in the woods. That's when they notified us.
So then it begs to ask the question, you've also spoken publicly about some of your frustrations with the federal government, for lack of a better word, poaching some of your folks, with huge bonuses, et cetera. How is that relationship now, especially since, you went public trying to get, some public awareness?
Oh, our relationship is wonderful. I said at the time, and I'll repeat for you now, whenever they offered their hiring bonus because they received the ability to hire a lot more ICE agents, which they needed, I had no problem with their hiring bonus. I had no problem with them recruiting. If they run ads on television, put up billboards, that was okay. What angered me was when the Washington decision makers decided that they would take data off of government forms that we submitted to them so that we could be trained to help them, and then emailed our deputies directly. That was low rent and unprofessional. I said it then and I say it now. Kristi Noem needs to get a grip on that. We're her best ally. We are her force multiplier. And then she's here poking us in the eyes, and she knows better than that. And she gets the credit for it or the blame for it because they work for her. Now, let me flip the coin here. Garrett Ripa is the field office director. He's the big boss in Florida. And all the ICE supervisors here, and CBP chief, Denise, all of them are tremendous. We enjoy working with them. We're hand in glove with them. They didn't create any of this problem. In fact, when I called Fuad Ripa, I'm the one that told him. He didn't know that they were recruiting out of Washington in that manner using government documents that we gave them so we could be trained, so we could help them. He had no idea, and he was very angry. He apologized profusely, but he had nothing to do with that. And our work ethic is that we're mission oriented to do what's right. And ICE needs help, and we're going to make sure that we help them. And we enjoy working with them, quite frankly. There's not enough of them, and there's not enough capacity. But Governor DeSantis made it clear that the agencies across the state of Florida are going to help ICE do their job. And we're eager to keep people safe, starting with the worst first, and take them and turn them over to ICE ahead of time and said, hey, we think we got one, maybe two, maybe three, we don't know. In this house, we could have sent resources with them. We would have assisted them just like we would have assisted a police department or any other law enforcement agency. Okay?
Can you describe the distance that he ran through the woods until he got to that business?
Do you know, I don't know how far it is, but I think it was right. I'm familiar with the area. I believe it was across the street so what I believe he did was ran across the road into the woods, and then he circled back and got onto the loading dock at the business, and that's where he was discovered. Then he broke and ran again.
Can I also ask, and this may be out of your jurisdiction, which I totally understand, but you said that they used pepper spray. Why weren't more lethal actions taken to try and apprehend this person? If a 5-minute fight and you got 2 agents, I don't understand why 2 agents can't get one person down.
Well, they've got 2 other people to worry with at the same time. So it's not like you can just focus on this one person. You also have to be concerned about the others breaking out on you at the same time. So they absolutely had their hands full. And they did a remarkable job. They stayed in the fight. And even with a dislocated shoulder or a broken shoulder or significant injuries, he still stayed in the fight and chased the man down while they were calling for help. So they were just overwhelmed, because they had 3. Fortunately, the other 2 did as they were instructed. But here's the issue. The issue is that ICE needs help, and we're willing to help. There is a capacity issue. But make no mistake about it. If you're here in this country, in this state, and certainly in this county illegally, and you're violent, you violated the laws, we're going to take you into custody. There's a warrant out for you for deportation. There's about 1.5 or I've heard 2 numbers, 1.4 and 1.5 million ICE warrants in the National Crime Information Center nationwide. A proportion of those, and I don't know what that is, are in this state. So when we find that there's a deportation warrant for you, and or you're violating the law here, and we bump into you through our normal course of business, we're going to take you into custody. Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you, talk about the cost of today's operations to taxpayers, but you also mentioned making sure that he has a public defender and that he's prosecuted for the crimes that he's being charged with today.
Yes.
Before deportation.
Yes.
Isn't that an additional cost to full taxpayers, and why?
Most of this cost will be to the state of Florida, because the state's got to provide him with an attorney to represent him, and then the state's got to prosecute him, and upon conviction, then he's got to go to state prison. Then, of course, the county had all the resources that we had to put in place to take him into custody after he fought with, injured, resisted arrest, and fled from the 2 HSI agents. So the bottom line, it's the cost of doing business. But it's business that we should not have had to have done had the federal government done their job the right way in 2021.
I guess my question is, why not let him go to ICE custody and let him be deported?
He would have gone to ICE custody and been deported until he committed these other crimes. Now he's going to go to state prison once we convict him. And then when he gets out of state prison for his transgressions, then he'll be deported. But the bottom line is, when you lay your hands on a federal or local law enforcement officer, when you resist arrest, when you commit felonious battery, when you break into an occupied structure, that's serious felonies. And now your simple, not much of a criminal history that we know of just turned into big time criminal history, and you created that. And that's what he did. Dennis created every bit of his problems today, and the thought would never enter my mind to now put him on a plane and ship him away after his felonious conduct this morning until he pays the price. And everybody needs to know that's here illegally in the state of Florida, because of the great work by Governor DeSantis and our legislature, that your first degree misdemeanor is now a third degree felony if you're here illegally. Your third degree felony is now a second degree felony, and your second degree felony is now a first degree felony. So a first degree felony is 30 years that he could get, not counting his federal charges. So first time out, will he get 30 years? Probably not. But the rule of law is important. And that's what keeps us all safe. And that's why Polk County crime is at a 53-year low in our jurisdiction and our service cities that we police. But I am angry. I'm angry anytime somebody jumps on a law enforcement officer and injures them. Now, whether he's my deputy or a federal agent or a state trooper, makes no difference, or a city police officer. We're all in this together to keep people safe and to safely remove those from this country that are here illegally, starting with the worst first, as I quote President Trump. And this guy was pretty bad this morning.
Sheriff, definitely acknowledge the catch and release issue that you made earlier. You did say, though, that, in this particular case, it would have been nice to have, to get a call and to be there so you could help them, with this arrest attempt. Is that something you communicated subsequently to ICE here locally? Like, why didn't you call us? We could have helped you.
Do you know, I have a very close working relationship with the ICE supervisors, and I cannot say enough good things about them. And certainly we will have that conversation again. They already know, and we've already espoused to them, look, if you're going to a home and you have a warrant and you ask for backup, we will go there and back you up while you do your federal job. So they decided not to do that on this occasion. I don't know why. But the bottom line is they don't have to notify us. What we do know, anytime you have a show of force, you're less likely to have resistance. And that's not just for this, that's for any when you're dealing with anyone that has a proclivity to violate the law or be dangerous. And this guy just wanted to get away. And he was going to do whatever he needed to get away. He didn't pull a knife or a gun and stab or shoot these folks. He fought them. He's 21 years old and he's a strong young man. He fought them to get away from them because he wasn't going to be deported. He wasn't going to be taken into custody. Surprise, we gave Miranda his Miranda, and he's now in custody.
Do you know if any body-worn camera was recording at the time? Has that been taken in for your investigative file?
Our investigation is still ongoing, and we will gather up any camera footage that's in the area, and we're still working with the federal government to get any camera footage they may have had.
And then finally, my last follow-up, has DC knocked it off?
Excuse me?
Has DC knocked it off with trying to email your deputy?
Oh, no, they've not emailed us again, but they doubled down, just said, yeah, our job is to hire people and we'll do what we need to do. So they were not responsive to the Florida sheriffs at all. But you know what? We have to compartmentalize that immature, unprofessional conduct and put it where it needs to be. And that's with the leadership in Washington, D.C. of ICE that approved that. And that's where it should be. But that would be like blaming all of the ICE agents and their hard work for some bozo breath in Washington, D.C. making what I think is a very immature decision. But the reality of it is our field office director, Garrett Ripa, his supervisor, they're remarkable in every sense. They're responsive to us in every sense. I could not be more pleased. Their frustration, I'm sure, is the same as our frustration. It's lack of capacity. And that's the issue, lack of capacity. Okay?
Thank you, Sheriff.
God bless y'all. Have a good day.